Trying to go live stream this time. It says it's now streaming on YouTube, but let's see if it actually does that. Done directing to YouTube, and trying to go live stream this time. There we go. So it says it's now streaming on YouTube, but let's see if it actually does that. All right, so we are live on YouTube now. It's going to be a few seconds delayed, so we can say hi and talk about what we're doing.
All right. Well, hello to everybody out there, to YouTube land.
Yeah, hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Drew Biharlal with Nine Leadership, and with me I have my fellow colleague and coach,
Naheed Oberfeld with Oberfeld Coaching. And we're here to just kind of give some people some advice during a really tough time in our lives, right, Drew? You had a tough night last night. I've had a tough few days.
Yeah, it's been a very this month has been a tough month in a otherwise tough year as well.
Yeah.
And so I think it'd be fun or helpful to talk about some ways we can help folks and what coaching does and kind of what we do as people in general and what we plan on doing over the next few months, ideally if this goes well, indefinitely. So with coaches coffee. Well, coffee with coaches, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, we don't realize the detrimental effects of stress on our lives until it gets really bad. And probably one of the things that we can even start today is just to introduce ourselves. And I know that I got into coaching because of the tremendous amount of stress that I was going through year in, year out. And finally, I got to that point where I said, something needs to give, right? Something needs to change. Otherwise, I just couldn't continue down this path the way that I was. How about you? What was your decision that got you into coaching?
Well, for me, it was a combination of a couple of things. First, I always loved personal development and like helping people to grow and build themselves. And I was doing it kind of haphazardly initially, like just more of a consulting kind of focus. Didn't know it was that at the time, but I just was building people up that way. And so over time, I started learning different ways and different methods of doing it. And then I connected with a friend who told me about coaching and Georgetown's program, and I was like, oh, check it out and see what it's like. And I learned stuff there that how to actually do it with a methodology and how to actually do it properly, and distinguishing coaching from consulting. And there's a need for each individually in different times, but being able to be that support and be that role, not role anything, but that resource for people was cool. So
Yeah, and I think that people who get into coaching have a knack for it. There's always a passion. We're always doing it behind the scenes anyway. Now, instead of being both of us coming from a career pathway, I was a financial professional. I worked in one of the big four consulting firms, accounting consulting firms, and that didn't quite work out because it wasn't a good fit for me. But we were doing this all the time, probably you were as well, giving your friends advice, listening to them, telling them all the different ways that things are helping you, like resources that are helping you, you probably were sharing with them. At least that's a lot about what I was doing.
yep. Yeah, no, I mean, I was definitely sharing resources, trying to help people to grow and build themselves up in different ways. And like I said, I didn't know that there was such a thing as coaching. I actually at the time thought coaching was consulting. I thought it was the same thing. I for a long time while I was doing it, and I didn't realize that there was a distinction there. But I was a prosecutor for a while. I did some work as an attorney, and then I went to IT consulting. And what I realized actually when I was at Georgetown in coaching school was that all of the jobs that I've actually enjoyed, or the parts of the jobs that I've enjoyed, have been about people, and they haven't been about the things, right? It's like the problem solving, but looking at the person as opposed to the situation necessarily.
Right.
And so it's like focusing on how do I actually grow this person. And I think they mentioned it one way. One of my professors said it the best. I think it's building capacity, not capability, right? Capability is about training, about like learning, consulting type stuff, and capacity is about coaching, right? You're expanding someone's capacity to do their job or live their lives better, more fully, as opposed to additionally, like with additional skills or things like that.
Yeah, no, and that's actually a really good distinction, because that's the distinction between feeling fulfilled in your
Mm-hmm.
job and just moving along to get things moving along type of thing. So, my path to coaching was a bit different. I had no expectation of ever being a coach. My undergraduate degree was biopsychology. I thought I would do my PhD, and then I realized that wasn't the right track because it required too much animal research. You're working with animals, you're sacrificing animals, not something that I could do. And so after that, I spent almost 15 years in the field of finance. And some part of me liked it because there is that analytical piece that I was interested in. But the thing that got me out of the normal career path, the corporate career path, was I, with every passing year, I had confidence issues, and my confidence issues just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And that's when I realized that if I didn't do something about that, nothing was going to change into the future. And I wish I had gone to somebody as a coach at a lot earlier age, because then I might have changed the decisions that I made. Maybe I would have still been in a corporate track if I had somebody helping me through these things. But I kind of got to the point where I was like, enough is enough. I completely quit. Again, had no expectations of being a coach, but similar to you, you found a program, so did I. Mine is called Emotional Freedom Technique, or tapping as people may know it. And once I started applying that to me, that's when I started realizing, okay, more people need to know that. I cannot be the only person going through this same experience. More people need to know about how to work with this.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah. And you brought up something
6.5
important
years.
too, which I think people don't realize that, there's the younger you get, look at folks in terms of clients and the kind of
Mhm,
work we're doing, the sooner you expose people to that kind of work, that
mhm,
developmental, like the
mhm,
capability work,
mhm,
capacity work, the better, right? And that's one of my goals long term, is to build enough of a business on my own, like to where I can actually go back and give back and coach high school and college students for free, right? So that they actually can start building this capacity for themselves earlier on, so that they're creating awareness around themselves. They're learning how to develop themselves on their own, as opposed to being like pushing themselves forward to build capability over and over and over again. It's not There's not always going to be a training program to fix what you want to fix, right? Or to add the skills you need to build to do what you want to do. Because sometimes it's just really just going to be rounding yourself out, right? And building that capacity around what you already know and what you're already able to do. There's not going to be a training program that necessarily does that for you, because you're looking to someone else to solve your own problems,
right.
right? Or to solve what's not actually a problem. So it's really fascinating, and the kind of work that we're talking about again is it's that kind of the deeper work that people don't necessarily want to do, or like are not necessarily comfortable doing, and so it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. And that is it. How many people, myself included, go into these types of things when we are in so much deep pain? We come to that point where, okay, we got to make a change. It would be so much easier if, myself included, had started this work 15 years ago, so that we didn't go through all that pain. We didn't have to put ourselves through it. And the quality of our life, what you were talking about from a finance perspective, it's called, we have this future cash flow, this idea of future cash flow. What you're talking about is future well-being flow. You change
Mm,
things today, and the quality of your life, it seems hard to imagine, but drastically changes, right? Because if you start having the tools today to deal with all of this, stress never goes away. Um, Crazy situations are only going to get crazier, but if you have the tools and the understanding, then how you respond is so much more balanced, let's just say.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just so much that this world encompasses that people don't actually understand. Again, they don't even understand the difference between coaching and consulting, right? So you think that's even the
Mhm.
understanding that the difference between capability and capacity is the first part of it, and I think that's huge by itself. But the it's really limitless. This particular this work that we're doing, it's limitless because it's limited only by that person's imagination or where they want to go, right? And it's the depths of really the human like psyche is really
Right,
we're limited by, and which is
absolutely.
not really a limit, right?
I when I was starting my work, I did a lot of research on various professional athletes who are at the top of their game, like Michael Phelps, and how did they get there? And it all started with coaches. But coaches, yes, they had to work on their ability, their capability, as you were talking about, but it also started at a very early age, their mindset, training about how they think. That is so important because, again, when we are taught mindset, it's usually from the lack place. Oh, you're not going to be able to do this. Oh, this is going to be so difficult. I don't know if you got this, but so many people told me when they found out that I was quitting my corporate work that life is going to be difficult. You're going to have to struggle. It's going to be really hard. You're not going to make it. It's going to be challenging. And you come into that experience feeling excited because you've got something you want to share, you're passionate about it, and everybody around you is just telling you how that's just not going to work until you finally have to tell them, I'm not interested. That's fine. I don't care. It's not going to be, that's not everybody's experience.
Right. And it's all the reasons the naysaying, like all the reasons why it won't work, but they forget to list all the reasons that it might work, right? And all the
Mm-hmm.
benefits of it. That it's like, okay, well, yeah, there's all this possibility of negative downside over here,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then what about all the amazing possibilities on this side over here, right? The stuff that you can create for yourself, the possibilities of freedom, of being able to take care of yourself and actually having your own company, your own business, being in control of your own schedule, right? Being able to hire the right people that do the work that you want to do, working with the clients you want to work with and can actually help effectively, and creating a lifestyle that you actually really love and want to thrive in. Those are all the upsides that people forget to mention. And yes, there are always going to be the downsides, but you got to balance it. People don't tend to do that, and it's all about how you frame, right? Framing
Mm-hmm.
is the frame will make or break a picture, right? And so that's the same thing with life. Like if you don't frame things the right way, if you don't frame things in such a way that it's a productive possibility for you, then you're always going to see the negative side. You're always going to see the downside of things and say, oh well, yeah, that's all that sucks, right? And that's the difference between constructive and pessimistic, right?
Absolutely. And as you're talking about it, what it reminds me of people who fall in that category never take a risk themselves. They tend to be stuck in situations that are unpleasant, but they're too scared to take the next step out of it. And if everybody thought that way, we'd still be in caves wearing bear skins. Civilization would not have been able to move forward, right? I mean, we're now talking about populating Mars, for God's sake. Who would have thought that even in our own generation, if you'd asked me that growing up, that we're going to be living on Mars, I wouldn't have believed it.
Well, it's a difference between letting fear drive you versus letting goals or like love or desire drive you, right?
Right,
It's like running away from something as your motivation as opposed to going towards something.
right.
And I always say the difference is like when you're running away from something, you don't really care where you're going as long as you're not going there. But that could also take you to something worse. You just don't know
Mm-hmm.
you're going there. The difference between that is like if I'm going towards something, yes, there's still fear there. There's still the uncertainty of the path of how I'm going to get there. But you know that on the other side of fear, there's possibility. There's what you want. Versus over here on this side, when you're running away from something, the fear's still there, but there's fear all around you because you know where you're going.
Right. Absolutely. You have no path. You don't know where, you don't have a vision. You don't have a desire to kind of lead you through that path. Yeah, absolutely. Well, unfortunately, so many of us get stuck in that. And from time to time, I think probably each one of us has experienced it. That's what makes us human. That's the great part, the
It is a
great
human experience.
equalizer.
Yeah, it is a human experience, right? Where
Mhm.
we've all been afraid, and we all let fear drive us once or twice in our lives, and maybe more, maybe less. But the idea is that how do we move from that fear driven mindset to the desire driven mindset to what we just to a goal driven mindset, right? That's the eternal question that will plague us forever.
Right. But that's what we work with all our clients. Both of us work with our clients on that, answering that question on a regular basis, right? And one of the things that at least I say is let's start identifying those fears. Once you start naming them, then you can have a path towards progress. Unless if there are these nebulous things on the outside that you don't actually turn and look at, they always hold power over you.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the other thing. Like if you give these things this kind of power, then they'll have that power over you. But it's yours to give or not, right? And that applies to things you fear or people in your life or jobs or just in any kind of influence, right? If you give external things this power that you have inside you, the power over your life, over your decisions, over the influence around you, that's your choice at the end of the day. And people don't necessarily they don't want to take responsibility for that choice. So helping them define that choice and understand that they always have that choice. It's always a choice. It may not be a great choice as an alternative, but you still have a choice, right? There's consequences to everything. And the consequences of staying where you are that you stay where you are, right? And nothing changes. and the consequences of going towards something or experiencing the unknown are, yeah, things could get worse, but they also could also get a lot better.
In fact, what you were just saying reminded me of something. We don't take responsibility for our own selves, but we seem to like the idea of grabbing on other people's responsibility, whether it's responsibility of making them feel better on a regular basis. I'm not talking about a friend where somebody needs to come and vent for a little bit of time. I'm just talking about all the things that we take the responsibility of other people, where it's their job to make the right decisions for them, to make the changes that they need to make in order to make themselves feel happy. And I feel like we do that almost as a distraction mechanism. We get distracted from the hard choices within ourselves, which, strangely enough, they're only hard when we look at it from the point of view of not making the decision. Because once we look at them from the rear view, almost every decision that I thought was a hard decision that I stressed and had so much struggle over have always ended up being one of my best decisions. I've never regretted any one of them. So it's just like you said, the fear of the unknown that makes us want to hold back, but we don't take responsibility of what those emotions are. We don't take responsibility of, for me personally, as a coach, I work with people on old stories. How much power are these old stories in our lives that we're holding on to and we're giving to them? Those are the kinds of things where if we could take a little bit more responsibility over and not so much worry about what other people are doing, saying, being, because if you're more balanced than you, it really doesn't matter what others are doing. It doesn't impact you. It matters, but it doesn't impact you to the same degree. And I feel like we use that as a distraction. I certainly do. I have to do a media sort of purge. Okay, I've come to the point where there's I was going to say there was nothing new, but that's not true. And there seems to be something new and crazy every day, but it doesn't matter. It's not adding to my overall knowledge in a meaningful way. So I
Right.
have to come back and say, I'm using this constant news reading as a distraction of what it is that I really need to focus on in my life. Because sometimes these distractions, food, news, media, social media, it doesn't matter what it is we use it as a way to kind of keep ourselves from paying attention to what we need to focus on within us the most.
Right, and that attention the attention span is definitely an issue. I mean, you look at the way people can use that against us, right? The media can use it against us, social media can use it against us, other people can use it against us by distracting us from what
Mm-hmm.
actually matters, right? From the conversations that actually matter. And again, it's about story, right? Like I love you mentioned story, because all of our any coach, their work is in story, right? Getting people out of their own unproductive stories or limiting stories that may be old, maybe new. The point is they're
Mm-hmm.
still living in these stories. And we're all living in our stories. We're all subject to our stories, right? Whatever they are. So why not tell yourself a productive one, right? Why not realize that the things, whatever's happening in the world, yeah, it may be crap out there, and it does have an impact. But how much of an impact it actually has is what we have control over, right? We can live in that and be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna let this really well up in my head and really stress me out to the point where I'm gonna burst. Or I can be like, yeah, that sucks. That guy's an asshole. That guy's a douchebag. That guy sucks. No one's telling the truth about anything, and we'll do what we can on our side. And I have to keep also going on with my own life,
Mm-hmm.
right? My own family, my own friends, making sure that they're taken care of, my dog, like things like that, and my business, the things that actually matter directly to me, right? And do the best we
Pattern
can.
that you have
And that's
control
all we can
over.
ever really do.
Right, absolutely.
Correct. Accept the things you can't change and change the ones you can, you know?
And have the wisdom to know the
So
difference.
as we exactly, right? Right. So so as we do this, we're going to do this every couple of weeks or so, get online and get some folks to jump on. I mean, today we're on YouTube. We're going to try to do it on Facebook. It didn't really work today, unfortunately, for some reason, but we'll see how it works as we go forward. But we'll take questions from folks as they have them. If you have questions out there right now, please feel free to post them in the chat. I think there's 2 people watching. So if you guys have questions, feel free to post them in the chat room. But if not, no worries. We're going to meet up again in 2 weeks and do this again. But Naheed, tell us a little more about your your vision for how this conversation is going to go over time. I just kind of mentioned mine, but what do you want to get out of this in terms of like being able to give out to the world?
What I would really like people to understand in totality is how much our emotions control us. Once you start understanding that these old emotions, new emotions, whatever they are, they're all part of these old stories. Once you understand the power of these emotions and you acknowledge them, then you can start releasing them. And that's really my goal with anything that I do with anyone is where are you giving your power away to these emotions and how much is it impacting you, whether it's money, whether it's relationships, whether it's health. It permeates every part of your existence, and all it does is it holds us back.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and then that's the other thing too. Like you're giving up all your power, right? You
Right,
have this power, but you're giving it up for
right.
what? What is it getting you by doing that, right? Is it actually helping you, or is it really hurting you and holding you back?
Right. It helps you from a coping mechanism standpoint. It keeps you from truly getting into your full potential, right? That from that perspective, as we talked about, we're not going towards something, we're shying away from something. But once you start recognizing that, and I think as coaches, that's what every one of us do. We're helping you identify what's that limiting belief, what's that limiting emotion, and how can we help you get beyond it? Just imagine a world where more people felt confident and worthy about what it is that they wanted and felt comfortable going out there and getting it. There'd be so much less conflict, right? Because we're not fighting somebody else. It's really the race is within ourselves, and that's it. Even if you can call it a race, the journey is within ourselves. It has nothing to do with anybody around us.
Yeah, and it's crazy about the whole thing that that if you look on Netflix has that movie the or documentary type thing, the social dilemma. I don't know if you've watched it yet. It's fantastic and it's scary as hell, but it's really really fantastic. Oh, actually, we have a question. Hang on, we got a question from one of the viewers. Awesome. Growing up in a fear driven learning environment, is there one change I can start making today to start to turn that around? So you want to give your answer and I'll give mine after.
Sure. What I would start with, because we always have to start incrementally, start with finding one thing you're proud of every single day. All right? Because when you think about what you were proud of, chances are you had to do something that got you outside of your comfort zone, even if it was a little bit. And you're going to incrementally start getting yourself thinking that, oh, that wasn't so bad. You know what? I kind of did that one. That was felt good. And you feel more confident in taking on those next steps. A great question, actually. Very relevant and great question.
Yeah, I thought I fully agree with that, and just to add on to that as well, start you can frame things as what you're afraid of. It's positive versus negative reinforcement, right? To go in psychology terms, you're either afraid of the punishment or you want the reward, right? So start setting up positive reinforcement for yourselves, rewards that you can implement for yourself, things that you actually want, right? And they can be simple stupid little things that matter to you, or they can be much bigger things. It's up to you what you respond to. You know yourself better than anyone. But it's like, for me personally, it's like, okay, if I don't eat cake for a week, right? Then I'm like, okay, I'll have a small slice of cake on Saturday. You know what I mean? I can reward myself in small things like that. But it's like focusing on, again, moving towards, and because in fear driven, you're running away from something and you're not necessarily running towards anything positive, right? You could be running towards something worse. So find things that you really are passionate about, or really want, things that drive you, they desire. What is your ultimate end goal for whatever you're doing? Start driving towards that and move and focus on just look towards that, look away from the fear, forget the fear, right? Let the fear go, because that's not, it'll drive you only as far as you're afraid of that thing. And then if you experience it and it's not that bad, then it's like, okay, what drives me? So focus on what you actually want. What is your actual ultimate goal? And then what's meaningful about that goal for you? Hope that helps.
Yeah, do we have another question? Or so please let the viewer ask the viewer, let us know. Give this a try. Give it a couple of weeks and try it.
Yeah.
See how that works for you. We would love to get some comments and feedback, good, bad, and indifferent. We would love to hear whether you've tried it or if anybody's tried it out there and how they feel.
Yeah, come back in 2 weeks. Let us know how it went. I mean, we're gonna be here to talk about the scheduling. We're gonna be here every other Thursday. Sorry for now, every other Thursday at 3:30 p.m.
It's,
Eastern time.
it's the second and fourth Thursday of the month.
Yep, second
We,
and fourth Thursday of the month. at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Come back. If you have questions, you have your comments, feedback for us, feel free to let us know. We'd love to hear more about, how things are working for you. Give it a shot for a couple of weeks and then come back. A lot of this is iteration too, right? I mean, you're looking at things in terms of behavioral change, in terms of effective growth. It takes time, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight necessarily, because it's building positive, effective, constructive habits, and that takes time, right? So it's there's going to be feedback, there's going to be difficulties, and we're here to support you guys through that. So invite folks if you think they might be beneficial for them. We'd be happy to have them join the live stream as well and post about it. So
Yeah, and one last thing, next time we meet, which is October 22nd, we're going to do a little bit of an exercise. So please come with a pen and paper, because we want to help you understand what are some of those big limiting beliefs that are foundational, and they're unique for each one of us, but that are foundational and are impacting you in all these different ways. Because step one is always to be able to understand them, uncover them, understand what's going on. And then you can also, as Drew was saying, then you can have a desire that takes you towards something, as opposed to letting these limiting beliefs be the driving force of what's moving you. So bring some friends over, let them know that they're going to get some insights as to what's holding them back. And then over the next several weeks, we're going to start giving more insights on as to how to move forward. So great question. It was a prelude to what we're going to be talking about a lot more.
and just so everyone knows, that wasn't planned. That just happened to be a great segue to what we're talking about in 2 weeks. So just for those of you who are listening, October 22nd at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to be on here again. So if you want to join us, please feel free. We'll post the live stream in Facebook like we did today again. And yeah, we hope to have you guys join us. And I think we're going to call it for today. But thanks for joining those who did. And Naheed, thanks for having us today. And thanks for joining me today. And then I'm excited to do this with you in the next few weeks,
Yeah, me
months.
too. This is going to be something new for us as well.
Yeah, and so there's going to be a learning curve for us as well, because this is only our second ever live stream. So we have some learning curve stuff to do and stuff to overcome. So feedback is always welcome. So we want to make this as effective and great as possible for you guys. So please do give us feedback on it, comment, questions, anything.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks,
Cool.
Drew.
Thanks, guys. Take care.